Hey guys, this is Faith Ray, and for those of you who don't know me, I've been working in the online adult entertainment industry for about 5 years. And today I'm here to share with you some of my answers from a recent AMA, also known as an Ask Me Anything, that I did on Reddit with 5 lovely other ladies. For those of you who prefer to read rather than watch, I will be providing all of my responses in my blog at www.alittlekinkonline.com. This way, you're able to read my answers without having to sift through all the additional comments from the original AMA. Because I ended up picking out so many questions that I liked from the AMA, I have decided to split this into a 3-part video series. So let's get started with part 1. Question number 1. What makes someone a great buyer of your services? How do you want a buyer to behave and interact with you in order to have the best possible experience as a seller? I only have a few requirements, but they make a big difference. Number 1 is to make sure that you've read the provided information prior to contacting me. This saves us a lot of time, even if it looks like there's a lot of information there. It's much quicker for you to give it a quick read through than it is for us to play 20 questions and have me answer questions that are already answered in the information I've provided. Number 2 is to decide what you want before contacting me. A lot of guys will waste time by humming and hawing. Should the video be 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Do they want me to include body oil or not? Take the time to decide what it is you're after, and then feel free to message me. Of course, if there's something you're unsure of that you can't find the answer to in the provided information, then please feel free to ask. Just make sure that you bring it up first. It saves a lot of time to deal with that and get it out of the way before going into the details of everything else regarding your request, especially since I've had to deal with people who waited until the last minute to say, oh, by the way, do you do X, Y, and Z? Only to cancel the order when I say no. Don't haggle, barter, or whine about my prices. What I offer is a luxury, not a necessity. And if you can't afford it, then you're welcome to either take the time to save up or go look for someone who offers what you're looking for in your budget. The value of my time is not dictated by the size of your wallet. I would never go into Guess and complain about them not letting me buy a $150 dress for 25 bucks. Generally speaking, what it all comes down to is being respectful and concise. Question number 2. What drove your decision to put yourself out there so your fans could see 100% of you, and the feeling you went through, if any, to make that decision? I started doing alternative nude fetish modeling long before I ever got into this industry. So when I did start camming, the idea of not showing face didn't even really occur to me. I also started working on big box cam sites long before I ever joined Reddit, and most of these major sites require you to show your face. I don't personally regret showing who I am and what I do. I know that my plans and goals for the future won't be affected by my work, as I intend to be self-employed for the rest of my life, whether it be in this industry or elsewhere. I also have no shame in what I do, so I feel no reason to hide. I understand that there are safety issues in working in this industry, but I strongly believe that if someone is not willing to take those risks, then they shouldn't be doing this at all. Even if you don't show your face, you can still be found. Having said that, I do completely respect the choice of people in this industry who don't show face. They're accepting the risks while still taking whatever precautions they can, which is fair. Question number 3. What's the worst thing about working in adult entertainment? It can be really exhausting sometimes, being treated like we owe someone something simply because they want it from us. I offer a lot of free content as a means of self-promotion, but everything I share for free is posted at my discretion. For some people, that's not good enough. I would say stereotypes are definitely a close second. I don't do drugs, I have good self-esteem, and I genuinely enjoy my work. It's not an act of desperation, lack of self-worth, or anything like that, but there are people out there who treat me like I need rescuing. Apparently, the advice of turning what you love into a career doesn't apply when what you love is sexual in any way, shape, or form. Question number 4. Do you find that most girls get burned out after a few months? Admittedly, I don't pay a lot of attention to other sellers and performers in order to make that observation, but I have no doubt that it happens. I can speak for myself in saying that I've burned myself out a number of times and have had to take breaks to refresh. Question number 5. Curious about the responses you got from friends and family, and maybe more specifically partners, assuming they or some know about you doing this kind of work. This topic actually came up in one of the private forums a couple days before the AMA, so I copied and pasted my answer from there. It's a long one. I'm pretty much out completely, and because I've always shown full face, kind of hard not to be. My friends and family know, with the exception of a few semi-conservative relatives that I'm not particularly close with. My mom took a while to adjust to what I do. She never judged me for it, but worried that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I do suffer from severe depression, and she just wanted to make sure I was okay. It took about a year for her to realize that this job was actually extremely beneficial to my mental health and well-being, as it gave me a sense of purpose and provided me with a source of income that wasn't going to disappear if I had to take a break for a week or a month. It was always there when I was ready to go back. Now she loves hearing about my stories from work and has actually offered a couple ideas on some of the projects I've been working on. She gave me an idea for a slave task once, and more recently suggested that I put body oil on before rubbing myself down with various dessert condiments because it would help things slide around more. I was actually quite impressed with how my dad handled things when I told him. We've had a rocky past, but I know how much he loves and cares for me, and I was definitely expecting a much more aggressively protective response than what I got. It all came about when we were talking on the phone one night, and I told him I was getting boobs. He ended up cracking a joke and saying, "Well, as long as you don't become a stripper next." Well, I actually did that already, and now I do pretty much the same thing on the internet. He was shocked, I'm sure, but mostly just likes to check in and make sure I'm handling my finances properly. Other than his initial shock, I've never really seen any opinion in one direction or another regarding what I do. I don't remember exactly how I told the rest of my relatives, but I haven't received any unfavorable responses. One of my uncles is even my accountant. It's super handy. I've received varying responses from friends and acquaintances over the years. Most were curious and asked me a lot of questions about what I do, but never treated me differently. A rare few definitely objectified me blatantly upon finding out what I do, so I put them in their place pretty quickly. Some apologized and we moved on. Most just kind of gave up on being around me once they realized that doing what I do for a living doesn't mean I'm going to sleep with them. I also have some friends who have purchased sessions and content from me. They've never tried to get a friend discount or freebies because of the fact that we know each other, and I'm very grateful for that. As long as they respect the line between my personal life and my business life, I'm more than happy to help them out. The biggest difference I noticed when I got into this line of work was the way complete strangers treated me upon finding out what I do. Whenever I was out at the bar and met a guy, it was almost like an internal switch would flip the moment they heard about the fact that she does porn, and immediately I went from being an interesting human being worth having, a decent conversation with, to being a conquest and really nothing else. Honestly, my job's turned into a pretty good bullshit filter. I occasionally lie to people too about what I do. I do this if I think they might be uncomfortable with it, mostly so we can avoid the awkward conversations. I'm not really concerned about whether or not people look down on me for what I do, but I have better things to do than listen to them berate me for it. When it comes to romantic relationships, I did have one bad experience with an ex, but I honestly chalk most of it up to his own mental health issues. He bragged about my job to a lot of his friends when we first started dating, to the point where his friends got really uncomfortable because when it came time to meet me, they felt like they had absolutely nothing else to talk about because he didn't tell them anything else about me. Throughout our relationship, he struggled with jealousy and was very nitpicky about how I talked about my job. If I just finished a funny or interesting session and wanted to tell him about it, I could never say, "We did X." I had to say, "The client paid for us to do X." Otherwise, it upset him. When I finally ended that relationship, he slut-shamed me all over the internet, called me a big whore, and essentially went back on everything he said about how awesome it was that I do what I do for a living. He called me filthy, disgusting, etc. Luckily, pretty much every single other partner I've had while working in this industry just hasn't really cared. I even made videos with one of them. All things considered, I'm happy I came out. I don't believe I have anything to be ashamed of, and I want my life choices to reflect that. Back to questions with shorter answers. Do you do sexual things in real life you don't do online? Absolutely. I find my sexual interests to be very contextual. There are a plethora of things that appeal to me online that I really have no interest in doing in real life, and vice versa. Nothing is ever faked on either side, though. If I'm doing it online, it's because I enjoy it. If I do it in real life, it's because I enjoy it. Question number 7. What is your feeling on legal sex sales in the United States? I personally feel by making it illegal, you're making the problems worse than better. Would you like to see sex and sexual services be legal for sale? Do you have any thoughts on how it would make your life better? I'm in Canada, but I'll still toss in my 2 cents on this one. I believe very much that making sex services legal would make it a lot easier to keep it safe and keep it regulated. I don't personally offer any services in person, and what I do online is legal. I pay my taxes and everything. So legalizing sex work wouldn't affect me directly, but I think people have the right to do with their own bodies as they please, and I think they have the right to do it in a safe manner. Number 8, what level of interaction do you prefer from buyers outside of sessions? And related to that, what would definitely not be okay to say or ask? Generally speaking, I prefer to keep things outside of paid sessions professional and to the point. Of course, when I'm sharing stuff for free, if someone wants to publicly comment on my content and let me know what they think about it, then by all means, feel free. If they're looking to chat one-on-one, I'd prefer that they book a session or grab a girlfriend experience. Having said that, I do have a small handful of regulars that I will chat with outside of paid sessions from time to time. I enjoy their company and feel they have more than earned a few extra minutes here and there with their loyalty and respect. These people have never asked for my time for free, though. Anyone who asks for it never tends to become someone who gets it. A lot of guys also ask if I'll make videos with them, which is super fucking annoying. Not only do I only do solo content, with the exception of that one time with that one guy, if I were to ever decide to make content with another person, it would be with someone I know in real life and trust, not just some random dude on Pornhub with their profile picture being a boner. Question number 9. What are some common misconceptions about the adult industry that you would like Reddit and or the general public to know about? 2 things come to mind off the top of my head. Being in this industry is not always, rarely even, the result of daddy issues, desperation, drug use, or low self-esteem. Being in this industry is not typically fast or easy cash, though admittedly it can be at times. It's time-consuming and it's hard work. Question number 10. Do you have any regrets from when you first started or something you wish you would have done differently? I preach this all the time now, but research, research, research. I got ripped off on Live Jasmine once when I was new because some guy was copying and pasting the message that gets posted when they tip. So when I was giving him a little show, I thought it was for money, but really it was for nothing. Also, don't feed the trolls. They thrive on your anger, discomfort, fear, attention, etc. If someone is trying to get a rise out of you, block, ignore, take a break, but do not engage no matter what. Question 11, and our last question for the day. Is selling services on Reddit online your primary job, or do you have a full-time job you do? And how do you respond to people who ask you what you do for a living? This has been my full-time job for 5 years. And before that, I was working part-time in a studio while also working in a local mall. When I got into this independently, it started off as camming on one cam site and steadily expanded over time. I now offer so many services that I only have to work 2 shifts on live streaming sites per week because I make most of my money with pre-booked sessions and custom video content. As mentioned before, more often than not, I'm honest about what I do, and more often than not, I get favorable reactions. Occasionally, I just tell people I run a small business from home making jewelry. This is typically something I do out of respect for the more conservative individuals who might feel uncomfortable having a conversation about what I actually do for a living. This also helps me avoid being preached at. So that's all the questions for today. I'm going to be putting together part 2 and 3, hopefully sooner than later. And in the meantime, you're welcome to check out the original AMA if you don't want to wait. Don't forget to check out my website, and I hope everyone has a great day. Number 1 is to make sure that you've Admittedly, I occasionally lie to new people about what I do. So that I can continue answering the rest of the questions that I really enjoyed.